Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. This I'm going to call Battle Rifle Royale. I've noticed a lot lately in the blogosphere and in the you gun tuber guys and everybody else, a lot of my magazines for the 2A. The battle rifle is back, and it's an old concept that keeps finding new life. And my question is, why? And I think there's some sort of secret sauce in this that Americans just can't get past. You can have enough AR-15s in intermediate calibers, along with AK calibers or the 300 Blackout, all intermediate calibers. They're cool. But eventually there comes a point in time where you see a distance differential that you know you need a little more power behind the bullet. And I think veterans coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq and have started talking about what they've seen at longer distances and going through things, barriers, obstructions like that, and that the fact that they're not going through 30 rounds. Most Marines and soldiers that I've talked to coming back from deployed theaters are loading 28 rounds in their magazine because they're told to and they're trained to do that. So what's the point of having 28 when you really only need 20? And that's usually what happens unless stuff hits the fan and you end up having to empty all your mags. But there is a definite power differential at 200 and 300 meters and 600 meters that translates to these intermediate cartridges. Fast forward, the Army, which always likes to stoke the fire of American shooters because there's almost a one-to-one relationship. Soldiers usually still stay shooters when they get out. Shooters usually become better shooters and marksmen when they go in. And it's kind of a pipeline that feeds each other. Well, the Army has recognized this, and they introduced their new military rifle, the M5 SIG Spear. So on this screen, I have an AR-10, which is from PSA. It is by no means a bells and whistles, frills rifle, but it works. I built one of these for my brother. The SIG, on the other hand, has a lot of new features that are coming back in vogue, but it also has a lot of new things that definitely does improve the technology. Number one there is on the SIG Spear. There are metal inserts in it that allow it to be serviceable so that the receivers themselves aren't just a wear item. It's usually the metal block inside that is a serviceable item. The barrel on the Spear is actually a composite barrel, meaning it's not one type of metal, it's like two or three. And it's because of the velocities that they're trying to push with the 6.8 Fury, or not Fury, 6.8 by 51, or the 277 Fury, I think is what they call it. It's to get more ballistic potential to defeat body armor. Now, the 308 has been around for a long time, and it's the parent cartridge for the 6.8. Case in point, let's talk about two of my other favorite guns. The G3 and the DSA FAL. Okay, so these are PTR and DSA FAL. These are new versions of the G3 and the FAL. So why are they cool? Well, one of them was known as the right arm of the free world. Both of these are still deployed in theaters by third world armies and some first world armies across the world right now because this was their primary battle rifle and they saw no reason to change to an intermediate cartridge. Pakistan, India runs these, Iran, South Africa runs DSA or FALs. Specifically, they use... they also use Galil. That's what I was looking for, the search for Galil. I didn't think about the Galil 308 until just now. But the Galil is what helped start along this path. When you think about the G3 rifle came around because the Brits making the the Belgians more specifically, making the FN, decided after World War II that you weren't going to just give them a gun to the Germans with, no, that wasn't happening. So the Germans had to develop one. They didn't. They bought the innovation from Spain, and they got the Setme, modified it, Rheinmetall did, to get the G3 rifle. Now, why are these still in circulation? Number one is the reliability. If you look at the FAL and you look at the Spear, what you notice is they both have side charging handles. In addition to the Spear has the normal AR-15 or AR-10 style charging handle because that's ergonomics for American shooters. But why is a side charging handle a thing? Because they have found in practice that a side charging handle is a marvelous thing to get extra leverage to open the bolt, or to cycle the action while you're laying prone, or right before you have to clear a room and get around a corner. If you're dropping a mag and you have to cycle the whole action, or you have to pop back around the corner to cycle the action so that you can clear whatever malfunction and make sure you're ready to go for the next stage. That's why the side charging handle is a thing. What's interesting is that the FAL and the Spear have side charging handles, but they don't reciprocate. Neither does the G3. But the G3 doesn't have a typical gas system. It uses roller delays. But to get back to this Royale thing, is it a video game phenomenon? Are people seeing these because video game designers and renderers are finding these new rifles and saying, well, let's just add them in there? Or is it that after years of experience in combat, we've realized that there is something to be said about having a full power cartridge for, if not everyone, for a number of people in the squad? If you look at the German army right now, the G3 is still issued as a DMR and as a sniper rifle. The FAL is still issued in some countries for the same reason. The Spear will be issued with optics. The AR-10 in the United States is the American civilian's answer to all of this. It has cross-platform knowledge with the AR-15, meaning that if you know how to run an AR-15, you know how to run an AR-10. What most people don't know is the AR-10 was designed before the AR-15. The Dutch, I believe, were the first ones to adopt the AR-10 as a military rifle. Nowadays, it's used as a hunting rifle. And that's where I think most American shooters kind of dig this. You get the modern advances of a modern rifle, modern sporting rifle. You get the same caliber and same potential, ballistic potential, to fall large game. But you also get the range advantage, too, if you want to try to take a long shot. I think this is what American shooters have been latching on to, is because with the AR-15, you can only get so much out of it. Meaning you build them, you like them, you enjoy them, you want something different. Then you start playing with other calibers. Most people stick to something in the AR-15 realm, like a 300 Black or a 6.5 Grendel, or me being 6.8 by 6.8 SPC. That is interesting to me, but I've always been a fan of the 308 because of my father. Now, my father always wanted M1A. I don't like the M1A. I had one back in the Gap. I won't support Springfield, and I don't really trust any of the other manufacturers, even though they're probably better than Springfield, to make me an M1A. That said, the reason why I don't like the M1A goes farther with its durability, reliability, and accessibility. If you look at an AR-10, you can put anything on it that you would an AR-15. If you look at the G3, the same can be said there. There are some dramatic differences with forends, though, and the weight of said rifles. There is no free lunch in the 2A or anything else. Anything that you upsize the rifle means you're going to get weight. and that with the AR-10. The G3 is about 10 pounds. The SIG is supposed to be close to that. The SIG Spear, that is. So why would you trade up a rifle that's lighter for something like this? And it really boils down to capability. You take one of these rifles, and a 600-yard shot on a game animal is not out of the realm of possibility. If it does go south and things do go bad, and you do have to do bad things, there is an argument to be said that if you had to bug out, this would be the one rifle I personally would probably choose, would be a G3. Why? I know how to service it. I know I have the parts myself, so logistically I can support the rifle. You would think that's the same with the AR-10. You could get parts and everything else in the United States. That's true to some degree, but you have to understand that the AR-10, there are, up until very recently, there wasn't one pattern of AR-10. So parts compatibility is still something you have to search and make sure are correct for that to be a thing. For the G3, the rollers, the extractors, the pins, some of the pins, they're compatible with 3 types of guns I already have. I have a C96. Which allows me to, the rollers are the same. I now have an AP5, so it's an MP5 clone, that the rollers are the same again. The extractors are pretty much the same, I think, or can be modified for that. Either way, they're not a big deal to stock. The extractor pins, there's one little loopy pin that for the MP5 is made out of copper. For rifles, it's made out of steel, and those are easy to stock. Something easy to replace once you know how to do it. So for me, the G3 is the rifle I can support. I know enough about how to head space it. You have to do it with filler gauges, and you do have to do it more often than you would with any of these other rifles. I'm not saying it's perfect at all. I'm saying I could support it. And to me, that's the important part of having a rifle. That's why I like the Kalashnikov. I can support it also. The AR-10 or the AR-15, I can also, to a degree. The reason why I like the AR-15 is because I still believe it is America's rifle. That's why they want to go after it so bad, is because everyone has one in their closet. And if you were going to disarm the American populace, that's the rifle you want to target. These other ones are already on the ban list. When they come out with the new ban list, Feinstein's list, which gets upgraded all the time, these are always usually the first ones. That's why HK doesn't like doing business with Americans. It's not that they don't like us. It's that the ATF hates them, literally hates them. They were one of the first gun companies ever to be banned outright by name by the ATF was HK. You have to do... so the gun I'm showing here is a PTR 91. It's one of their retro lines that has the markings for SE and F, so select fire basically is what it looks like. It isn't. Inside these, the trigger packs are clipped and pinned. I know how to do that. I know how to take a normal one and clip and do that. That knowledge isn't forbidden by the ATF even. The thing is you have to do it because you have to make it compatible with their gun laws. And gun laws say in the United States that you have to clip and pin an HK trigger pack so that you can't swap it out with a full auto one. I'm going down a rabbit hole with the G3. But what's interesting to me about the battle rifle stuff is this is what Dad would have been into. He was a boomer FUD by all shapes and colors of the imagination. I love my dad very much before he passed. But my dad believed fully in that a 308 or a 30-06 is all you ever needed. And I don't believe that. I think there's a time and a place for each rifle. And I think it's very interesting and cool that today's kids are willing to rock these knowing how much heavier they are and how much different they are from what the AR-15 is. And I think that is the draw for most people. You can only, like I said, you can only make an AR-10 or an AR-15 so long before you want to try something different. And if you get into the gun world enough and you start customizing them yourself and learning about them, because that's how I've always done it, you find out that your preferences towards a battle rifle, there's an argument always to be had about if you're going to take a battle rifle or an intermediate cartridge. And there has been no one that has settled this debate as much as they have tried. In combat, the intermediate cartridge makes a hell of a lot of sense. But if you are the only sole provider for yourself and you are having to leave your area, your home, and you may have to hunt, or Lord knows what else, don't you want that extra bit of power or that extra thought of power that could be decisive if you have to go that route? These are the reasons why I think the battle rifle Royale is happening right now. Is it something different? Gun industry guys like to sell their product. Battle rifles aren't cheap. The PTR is probably the cheapest one of the AR-10 Spear, DSA FAL, and M1A I know of. A good AR-10 is going to cost you $1,000, $1,500 easy. PTR, as it sits, is probably going to cost you $1,000. Okay, and a FAL is probably about $1,200 to $1,500, and a Spear is like $6,000 to $7,000 if you can find them right now. Now, why would you do that? Well, they handle more pressure. You know, the 308 has a myriad of bullet weights that you can get that make it from varminting to deer to mule deer to elk to moose to bear if you need it to. You can't say that about the AR-10 or not the AR-10, the AR-15. A 55 grain, a 62 grain, a 77 or 75 grain bullet does not make a difference when you start going into things like moose and bear. I guess this is an adventure in realism. If you are realistically never going to hunt at all, you are never going to do anything but more than be a range toy, this is definitely a viable option, but the AR-15 is probably more what you're looking for. So, I think battle rifles are cool. I own a couple of them, mostly of the G3 style. I probably will add a FAL to my collection one of these days because it's one of those guns I think that every American shooter should have because of the historical significance of it. The AR-10, I've shot them, I built them. Rifle's not for me. My friend has built one very recently that I'm very envious of, mostly because of the trigger. I will probably build an AR-15, my What Would Stoner Do hunting carbine that I'm looking at building in 6.8. I'll probably put that trigger in that gun. But I don't see a point in a Spear, at least until the price comes down. And the G3, it's my homie. I get along with it very well. In fact, I've taken one on trade that wouldn't work for the user, but now runs like a top for me. And that's because I knew to replace the took me a second to figure out what the problem was because it was a new one I hadn't seen. But I had to replace the extractor and the extractor pin. So let me know what you think about battle rifles. Are they viable in today's world? Would you carry one? Let me know in the comments. You can email me at atin082@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe, rumble. Be great.